them these games. And, it's interesting because the whole summer the conversation was about what's the offense going to look like, what's the relationship between Rodgers and LaFleur going to look like. If they were 1-2 instead of 3-0 right now, we would be going crazy over this. Winning covers up a lot of that stuff. But what are we hearing about that offense?
They always believed it would be a work in progress, and it is. The defense is covering for it, as Aaron Rodgers said, so the hope is that it gets better throughout the season. You see, it's no coincidence they're good early in the games because you can script your first, 10, 15 offensive plays, and so it gets more challenging as it goes along in terms of the communication when you get off the script. So everything's good there. Everybody says the relationship is good. They're winning. But you're absolutely right. I think the offense is not where it eventually they want it to be.
And how about Aaron? What are you seeing in Aaron right now?
Well, Aaron's a little off, right? Aaron's not making the throws we're used to seeing him make. He's missing some easy opportunities. But what he is doing and what Matt LaFleur's number one job is with this team is he's staying healthy. Now, it's because he's elusive. He's avoided some sacks, but he's been hit less and less every week. And keeping Aaron Rodgers upright is huge. He's run the ball with Williams. He's run the ball with Jones. They've used the screen games. And so I think that things can get better. But this is a much easier problem to have at 3-0 than it is at 1-2.
Of course. And, Nick, I want to give you credit. I refer to it all the time. This summer, you said the Packers made these huge defensive acquisitions. They're going to be much better. The defense is carrying them. Maybe the good news here is if you have to bet on whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to get it together, you would bet that he will.
Yeah, he's going to be able to make big plays when they need him to make them most. I picked this team early on to make a run to the Super Bowl because of this defensive improvement and because of the trust I have in Aaron Rodgers. But I don't want to completely dismiss the offense. While this defense is making really huge, good plays and creating turnovers for a team, I don't want to completely dismiss the offense. The stat about them scoring early, that matters.
Yeah.
Because as a defender, if you can come out there and you've already had a team that's giving you a lead, it makes it so much easier to play defense from a lead. So if you're going to pick any time to play well, you want to play well at the end of games for an offense and play well at the beginning of the games for offense.
Listen, I know the problem for Aaron Rodgers, and you can see him being a little agitated in answering that question, is they asked him, was the offense just managing the game? If you Kobe Bryant, you don't want to be compared to Smush Parker. If you're Aaron Rodgers, you don't want to be compared to Deshaun Kaiser, right? Or even Kirk Cousins for that matter. So for Aaron Rodgers, he wants to get this thing right because his ego is part of this. And Aaron Rodgers knows what type of player that he was, and he wants to let people know that he can still do those things. And for this team to compete for the NFC Championship, he has to.
Do you know what the Packers did the last time they had a top 10 defense in the NFL? They won the Super Bowl. The only one that Aaron Rodgers has won. At this stage of his career, that I think should be his primary consideration. However many points per game they score, whatever numbers he puts up, Rodgers needs another championship to sort of take another step up the level of greatest quarterbacks of all time. I have to believe this thing is working out well for him.
It is working out well, and he will take the step that he needs to take to get there. But I think that in the light of all of us raving about Patrick Mahomes, I don't know that he loves being considered not the most talented quarterback in the league anymore.
That's why I thought he was going to come out on a scorched earth tour this year, and there's still plenty of time for that. So that's a team that's 3-0. Maria, let's talk about a bunch of teams that are 1-2.
Yeah, come on, hop on the struggle bus with me, Greeny. There are 10 teams that are 1-2 through 3 weeks of the season, and we start with the Browns, who are the offseason's most hyped team, but have won just one of their first 3 games. They have finished with 70 straight games without a winning record. Now, next up, the Eagles. Let's talk about them. They enter week 4 below 500 for the first time under Doug Peterson. The last time they started 1-2 was Chip Kelly's last season. That was 2015. Atlanta, they're 1-2 for the second consecutive season. It's the first time Atlanta's been 1-2 in consecutive seasons since 02-03. Matt Ryan hadn't even played a game at BC by then. And that's nothing compared to the streak the Chargers are on. They've lost at least 2 of their first 3 games for the 5th straight year. That's the longest active streak in the NFL. So the question is, do these teams have postseason hopes? Since the playoffs expanded to its current format in 1990, only 26% of teams that start 1-2 ended up making the playoffs. Meaning if that holds to form this year, only one of these 4 teams mentioned will end up playing come January. So this is not an indictment on you, Dominic, that I'm bringing you over to the losers bracket, but welcome to the 1-2 teams. I want you to choose the one that's probably going to make the playoffs.
Okay.
And obviously you're going to have to put aside how they started this season.
So, yeah, they started poorly. I think there are actually some good teams up here. I actually think the Eagles are the best team, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs because I think the NFC is pretty stacked. That wild card spot is going to be tough. I think the Cowboys will win that division. I'm going to have to go to the AFC, and I think the Chargers have the best chance because their schedule going forward isn't as intimidating, and they have Phillip Rivers. I know they had a lot of injuries, but they could have a chance to get some guys back. And always Melvin Gordon. Maybe one of these days, Melvin Gordon's going to show up and pick up those checks. And adding that type of dynamic player to the team could help.
So you feel better about just the league that they're in over the potential that they have?
I think that, again, the best team out here, I think, is definitely the Eagles. They're deep on offensive line and defensive line, and they have an MVP-level quarterback. But the team that's in the best shape, I think, is the Chargers, considering the fact that the conference is not great and their division has Patrick Mahomes and nobody else.
The FPI 100% says that you are wrong. It says the Titans are the 1-2 team most likely to make the playoffs.
Don't listen to them numbers. Numbers don't know what's in here, though.
You lie.
They can't tell you what's in here.
You lie.
All right, I got some different numbers for you guys. Let's put the number 60 up on the clock, shall we? Let's do On the Clock and run through a couple of topics here. And I want to start by going back to the last game of Week 3, the Bears in Washington, the Monday night game, because I think there are interesting stories to be told on both sides. Ryan Clark, I'm going to start with you. Give me 60 seconds on the clock. Are the Chicago Bears legit NFC Championship contenders, yes or no?
No, they are not, and they aren't because of their quarterback, and they're going to be in a lot of games because this defense is phenomenal. This defense turns the ball over. Heck, they even score points. But when you watch Mitchell Trubisky from the pocket, he's not effective. He misses high. He's inaccurate. He's also not throwing the ball with confidence. When I hear a quarterback tell a reporter, you know what, I know I have the talent, and I know I have the work ethic. That's what Gardner Minshew should be saying. That's what Tom Brady should have been saying, being the 6th pick and taking over for Drew Bledsoe, not the number 2 overall pick of a draft.
What are you hearing about their level of confidence in Trubisky right now? Because the pressure on him in Chicago has been overwhelming.
Yeah, they're saying all the right things, but the proof is in the pudding. They're not trusting the guy to throw it downfield. You see that they really like the way he operates in the red zone and near the goal line. They feel like they design good plays for him. That's where they look their best. But the confidence in him that they express when you talk to them is not showing up on the field. So you have to wonder sometimes. We don't always get told the truth, when we talk to
Absolutely.
2-1. They're the 2-1 team whose fans are the least enthusiastic about them in the entire sport right now. On the other side of that, Washington 0-3. Is it time to go to the rookie quarterback? 60 seconds on the clock. Should they go to Dwayne Haskins?
They absolutely should not, because clearly they don't believe in him. And until this game, Case Keenum actually hasn't been playing bad. I mean, it was a total debacle on Monday night against the Denver Broncos, but until then, he hadn't turned the ball over. They were pushing the ball down the field. They can't stop a nosebleed right now. And on the other side of that, I've been with Jay Gruden. Jay Gruden starts to feel certain things about quarterbacks. I knew week 1 he didn't like RG3. And maybe Dwayne Haskins isn't playing ball the way that he'd want him to, but he does feel very comfortable with Colt McCoy. And I believe he's waiting to get Colt back to insert him in. But once you go to Dwayne Haskins, there's no taking that step back there. So maybe he's just trying to bide his time to that point.
They just don't have their team. They don't have Trent Williams, their left tackle. Jordan Reed, the tight end, can't get healthy. They don't have the running back they thought they'd have in Darius Geis. And, every situation is different. Daniel Jones played a lot more college football games than Dwayne Haskins did. So it's not an indictment on Haskins if you say he's not ready yet. At this point, I don't think he's ready. I don't think the Redskins are ready to put him in a game either.
And the specter of the coach's job, I think, hangs over all this as well. Jay Gruden himself said he knows he's going to get fired if the season goes badly, and they're 0-3. All right, one more on the story of the week in the NFL, which, of course, is the Jalen Ramsey situation. 60 seconds on the clock. Which team should trade for Jalen Ramsey and win the Super Bowl right now?
The Kansas City Chiefs, and I know that's the easy answer because they're such a good team, but this team is one defense away from beating the New England Patriots, and that's what you're going to have. If you look at the games that they played so far this season, Gardner Minshew comes straight off of the bench and completes over 80% of his passes. You go to the fourth quarter against Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, where he was able to throw for 184 yards. And by the way, they just couldn't get him on the ground. If you have a guy like Jalen Ramsey that you can lock up outside on the corner against a number 1 receiver with what they've done inside.
A very pleasant hello, and thank you for getting up with us at ESPN. As you can see, we are jam-packed this morning, and we have a lot to get to, primarily football conversation, and it starts in Big D. The Dallas Cowboys off to a 3-0 start. So you would think that everything is about as calm as it could be. And you would think that Jason Garrett's seat is about as safe as it's been at any time in his tenure. But take a listen to Jerry Jones on the radio yesterday when asked about a possible extension of Garrett's contract.
I'm not ignoring your question, but I certainly wouldn't want to respond in any way because that's just not what we'd want to do relative to that area of our business.
I don't want to quibble, but if you say I'm not ignoring your question and then ignore the question, I suppose you are ignoring the question. Anyway, as far as Jason Garrett, his 80 regular season wins are second most in Cowboys history. No one is ever going to catch Tom Landry. We all know the real issues lie in the postseason. So, Maria, what gives?
Where's the question? Our NFL insider, Dan Graziano. So thank God that you're here today. What are the updates that you can give us on head coach Jason Garrett's future in Dallas?
Look, they've done this before. In 2014, Jason Garrett was